Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Purple Chair podcast, the podcast by youth for youth to end FGM and all gender-based violence.
We are your hosts today. I am Nabila Salih.
And I am Imtinan Munir.
We are both youth ambassadors for End FGM EU, and we are very passionate about eliminating FGM.
Today's topic will be about Diaspora's power to end FGM. Okay, so what does diaspora mean? How do we define diaspora? Diaspora is when people, a group of people or a whole community moves from their original homeland country and settle elsewhere where they call home. They move with their culture, their tradition, their language.
Yes, by example, people whom are moving from their countries and taking all their traditions with them. You can think about the Moroccan community or the Turkish community or the Sudanese or the Somali community and different people whom are part of that community. They are living everywhere in Europe, in UK, in Canada, everywhere over the world with those traditions and their languages they took with them from their countries.
For instance, I am from the African and Arab diaspora. And you, Nabila?
I am from the African diaspora, and in more specific, I'm from the Sudanese diaspora. There are two sides to this. At one hand, you have people from an affected country that comes in their host country, but still will be dealing with FGM, by example.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also, like, as you mentioned, there are two sides to this. So the first side, you mentioned it, but there's also another side to it, which is people who already live in the host countries. They have the ability and the power to remove and eliminate FGM by activism, which is exactly what you and I are doing, Nabila, as young activists.
That's true. Then when you are living in your host country, then you have the power to make a change in the country where it's really prevalent. By example, for me, it's Sudan. So
yeah, and for me, it's Somalia. So these are countries that have a very high percentage of young girls and women that go through FGM. Okay, so Nabila, as you mentioned before, there are people who have come to Europe and they're still at risk of going through FGM. In your organization, how do you prepare, let's say now in summer vacations where the risk is really high? How do you prepare?
Before summer break, we do like kind of booster sessions for mom and for families to make them aware of what can happen if they go back to their home countries, because they are at high risk. They have their aunties, they have their grandmas and moms, and maybe they will pressure them to do the practice for the girls. So we are trying to make them aware and to give them advices about what they can do and how they can discuss with aunties, grandmothers, and what they can tell them that the practice is illegal. And of course, the children, when they come back to Europe, they will be checked in school and they will be asked what they did in holidays, just to make them aware that if they did it, they cannot totally hide it. So they can be very aware, and even the consequences of what can happen to the girls.
We mentioned earlier that we are very rich in our traditions and our cultures. I would love to give an example. For instance, in the Yemeni, Somali, Kenyan traditions, when it is Eid, so our festivals, we tend to, all of us go to, like, let's say, grandma's house or a grandpa's house and the entire family, like, they join, and it becomes like this family festivity, you know? Everybody joins, and then there's always, I don't know if you guys have it in Sudan, but we have the idea where, like, you have form a line, and all, like, the older people, everybody's, like, giving, like, if it is like 10 years, 20 years. So you have this good memory with your cousins and your friends and your family all around. What about you, Nabila? I'd love to listen to...
Maybe I can tell you something about our weddings. The first time when I was like a little bit a grown up who understand what is exactly happening, I was in Sudan to attend the wedding. And the wedding was like a few days long. This is not only one day and you'll be finished. So it was a few days, and you have like the henna party of the girl, and then the henna party of the man, and a few different parties in the middle, and then the wedding itself. And it was not only the party, but it's how people help each other at the part of for the wedding. How people help each other for the wedding. So they know, okay, in my family, that the girl was from my family, the bride, and all her uncles and aunties, they were there and they wanted to help. So they were sharing all the duties they had. By example, okay, I'll buy the groceries, and then one person says, okay, then I will arrange this one. And the teamwork they had, and this is something like very precious, I guess, from Sudan. And everyone that's coming for the wedding, that person was bringing a gift, and I was so impressed by what they are giving. They are bringing like sugar, 5 kilogram of sugar, or 10 kilogram of sugar, or they brought a sheep. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's really nice.
So or they are bringing with the sugar, because this is the most worthful thing they can bring, or they're bringing a sheep.
I feel like teamwork and family matters a lot in our traditions.
Yes, it is. And I can even give you another example, because I turned blind 7 years ago. And when I turned blind and I was in hospital, because I didn't know how long it was going to take, so I was in hospital for some 2 weeks. And every day there were a lot of people coming to visit me from community. They brought me then chocolate and then flowers, and all of them. So at the end of every day, my room was full of flowers, and it was that much that I was like giving those flowers to people at the same ground who didn't had families, or who had no one. So I was sharing my own flowers to others, because it was too much to leave it in the room. So that was one thing. And even at the day that I had to do my surgery was like at 8 in the morning. And then at 8 in the morning, there were like 300 people waiting outside. They are coming to attend the surgery and to be there. I can call that crazy support of those Sudanese. So this is something very traditional. And they brought it with them from Sudan, because in Sudan they are like that. If someone had to do a surgery or who is in hospital, there are a lot of people waiting outside until the surgery is done.
It just shows that they really care about their family members, which is really important. I feel like the value of a family is always amazing. Like it's always top notch. And then the rest, whatever happens.
They are very kind community that is very connected, and they are really trying to help each other, to be there for each other. If a Sudanese person will listen to my podcast, he'll be saying, yes, yeah, right. This is not what is really happening. But in general, and I'm talking about in general, and here in Europe, we are a community that is quite connected, and we are trying to help each other with a lot of things. And we are there for each other during good times and bad times. And I kind of, appreciate that so much.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Because helping one another is always important. So if you have like a community that you're aware of, that you share, your problems, but also your celebrations, then you can always look up to them first, and then you can look up outside. So yeah, I agree with you, Nabila.
Yes, I want to give you an example. Something that happens in one member of the Sudanese community like passed away, and the person didn't have an insurance to be transferred to his home country to be buried there. Exactly, to be buried there costs a lot of money. All of the whole Sudanese community, or everyone that heard about it, they came to the janaza and they were like, yes, we heard that this person didn't have the insurance, so we are putting money. And they put like, everyone who was there put like 100 and 100 and 100, and they gained the money within less than a few hours, 2 hours or something, maybe 3 hours. And he was sent back to his home country and buried there.
Oh, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. But this is a beautiful example of how they can be there for each other.
True. Yeah. Or no matter the calamity or no matter the happiness, no, you share all together.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And it's something to be very proud of, actually. That you belong, yes. And it's not easy. I think a lot of people, they don't have that. They don't feel like belonging to a community because they're born and raised up somewhere, and their parents are from somewhere, and you don't feel like quite connected. But yeah, at the end of the day, these are your roots. These are where this is where you're coming from. So this is you. This is part of you, at least.
It's like being attached from home but away from home.
I am from a Sudanese diaspora, and unfortunately, there are bad habits that are still happening in, let me say, my home country, Sudan. I feel pressured by those bad things that happens in Sudan, like FGM, and I feel pressure about it. Why do I feel pressure about it? Because it's something that is still happening, and you will get to know people that has suffered from this.
Being from, let's say, an FGM affected community, the pressure that you feel. Like, do you feel, like, let's say you're an activist, right? And you could belong to a community, even though it has a lot of positive sides, but it also has negative sides, of one of them being FGM. How do you try to overcome it?
So why am I feeling pressured? I'm feeling pressured because you're always around people who went through this, and who have a higher risk to do it for their girls, for their little girls. And if I know a person like that and who suffered from this and who went through this, so I feel so responsible to give that awareness and to give knowledge about what the consequences are, the short-term consequences, the long-term consequences, and what it really means and how bad it is and how painful it is, not at the moment, but even after, the problems that the person will get. And I'm trying my best to give that knowledge and awareness. And I feel pressured by everyone who's coming from that country or who is recently coming, especially when the summer breaks come up. These are the moments when I take my days off because I really want to give myself 100% these days before summer break, to give them knowledge, to create awareness, to come up with the religion thing. And I dive into the information I got and what I've learned about FGM and religion and culture and everything. So I try to transfer that information as much as I can.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because, like, from my perspective, the way I understand it, on the pressure part is us as, let's say, the African descent. Since we moved to Europe, so we make up our own communities, right? So it's like rich in culture and stuff. But because back home, we have, like, let's say, our grandparents or aunties, and they still practice FGM. So when you try to raise awareness to them, they're like, don't bring these ideas, these European ideas to us. This is something that we've been doing. Yes, no, and sadly, I mean, that is the sad truth, you know? Like, don't bring these ideas back to where, where we raised you, where we made you part of us, and now you went to Europe and now you want to change it. Like, we were not going to do that. So I think that's where the maximum effort of our activism and feeling pressure comes from.
I totally agree with that. And even when we are doing those booster sessions before summer break, we try to give moms as much information and knowledge as possible. So when they get back and they're meeting their parents and they're meeting their sisters, so the aunties of the kids, so they can try to go into a discussion with them and explain them. And hopefully that is a way that even those people maybe can change their minds about FGM. And another thing that is really pressuring me about this FGM topic is when I get into a situation and someone in front of me, by example, thinks about doing the practice of FGM to their girls, by example, and that mother and grandmother, by example, are really convinced that this is the good thing to do. And I was witnessing, this is something I really witnessed, and I was there and I was thinking, but how can you do something like this? How can you decide for those girls, their future and everything, that something that is part of their body you are deciding for them. And I realized myself that it could really frustrate me, no matter whom it is. So it is hard to witness something like this and to try to change mind without being too emotional. It's really a hard thing to do. But if I could go back in time, I would try to be less frustrated or less emotional, if I can say, and try to talk and try to go into a discussion and to try to dive into a deep discussion to
why it's wrong.
maybe not why it's wrong. Why are they doing this? Okay, it is wrong. Both of us, we know, but they don't care about this practice being wrong. Why are they doing what they are doing? And we should make a discussion. We should talk about this and communicate very well to get somewhere. So, and at that time I was like younger, so I wasn't ready to discuss about this, and I didn't have the knowledge I have now. But if I could go back in time and if I had the knowledge, of course I would discuss with them about this.
That's like one of our most important jobs, as young activists. The discussion, the sitting down, the explaining to them in such a way that everybody understands.
And you are talking to people from, by example, elder people, elder generations, and whom have these thoughts, these heavy thoughts. And you want to try to make a change in those thoughts, whom are already there for some years and years. So the way you have to discuss with them and talk about this with them should be very careful and should be in a proper way, of course.
I represent an organization known as Save Our Girls, Save Our Generation, and the founder. As a young girl, barely the age of 8, she was pressured in going through FGM, and sadly she did go through FGM. I knew about FGM, but it was a very vague idea in my mind, and I was like, oh, this is something that people don't do anymore. And I didn't know until I recently became an activist in this matter that it is still going on. It is something that has not been removed completely, even though governments and countries say that it is. And with Save Our Girls, Save Our Generation's founder, the way she shared it is one of the first people where I've met face to face who has gone through FGM. So I mean, she was a young girl, so she didn't know that this was going to happen. And as a young girl, it's a part of a ritual, no, or part of a tradition where oh, okay, this happens and that's it. But as you grow older, or as she grew older, that's when she found out that this is wrong and it shouldn't be done. And she's made her life mission to remove it completely, be it in Europe, be it in Somalia, be it in Kenya, or be it anywhere around the world.
This is very sad, yeah. I am presenting EFSA, and from EFSA we are trained to talk to moms about the FGM subject, how to find proper ways to talk about this with them. We organized an event, and there were not a lot of people at that event. There were a few women. I really appreciated that there weren't a lot of people, because those women, they really shared their stories. And then one of them, we talked to her in a few times, and I'm sure that she wasn't really having the idea to do the practice for the girls. But when she got back to Sudan, and we even prepared her and everything, and when she got back to Sudan, her mom, so the grandmother of the children, she asked her in first place. And when she saw that the reaction of her daughter wasn't really the thing she wanted to hear, she didn't ask her anymore. And she let it. And then after a few weeks, she just, the mom left the girls, and she went out to do something outside, to go on a visit or something. And then when she came back, her mother just did it.
Yeah, sadly, it's a daily occurrence. Because as the mom of the children, of the girls, she trusted her mother, the grandmother in this case, to take care of her girls, and she ended up doing this to them.
Yes, and she didn't prepare her okay, this is, anyway, you're not agreeing, but I will do this. She just asked her, and by the reaction of her daughter, she knew that her daughter wasn't planning to do the practice. And then she waited a couple of weeks, and she never talked about it again, and then she just did it. And this is something that is happening very, very much.
without the mom's consent. It's a sad reality for so many young girls, but we are there to stop it. So that is our job. So both of us, we do come from FGM affected communities, but both of us were saved from FGM by important cycle breakers in our family. For instance, in my family, my grandmother, she was the cycle breaker. She had 4 boys and 1 girl, was my mom. And she was like, I'm not going to do this to my daughter. And from then onwards, that cycle was broken, because my grandmother really valued giving equal opportunities to all her children, be it boys, be it girls. And she valued education. She valued family ties. She valued like being close to one another, but in a positive way, in being together and not in traditions such as FGM. So thanks to her, like my mom, me, and the future generations to come will not have to go through this traumatic experience ever again. And what about you, Nabila? Do you have a cycle breaker in your family? Could you please share with us?
Yes, the cycle breaker in my family is my mom. She came to the Netherlands when she was very young. She was maybe 16 when she came here. A very short time after she brought me to the world. I always say that. Yeah, so in 2006 she started her journey as a anti-FGM activist. And she was trained by Assan for a very long time, for years and years. And there was the moment where she was started to make people aware and make women aware and even men. And it's discussed in the community, in our affected community. So yeah, in my family, my mom is the cycle breaker.
Go Nabila's mom. Yay!
It's hard. It's hard for a cycle breaker, because that person have to deal with all the negative emotions, the negative feelings, that unacceptance of people, and that they don't want to listen, they don't want to hear. Yeah, so the first person will deal with all of this.
And also, like a cycle breaker, they tend to outcast her from the community. If not all of them, then the majority of them are like shunned away from their communities. Are like, you're breaking the cycle, so you don't belong here anymore, which is difficult. But then it's for the better purpose.
Yes, when you are a cycle breaker, I hear that often in events. The more we go through years, the better it is to open the subject and to talk about it, even from a scientific perspective, and to discuss from a scientific perspective. And that you can talk to women and tell them, okay, this is very unhealthy, and let's talk about it from another perspective. I'm not going to tell you that it's wrong, what happened, but let's just discuss about it, and what are your problems, what are you going through, what is happening to you, from the physical side, but even from the mental side.
Okay, so Nabila, today's episode is about diaspora's power. So, in your words, what does it mean to you?
In my opinion, it means people from an affected country whom are living in a host country. Mm-hmm. So, by example, my community who is living in the Netherlands, and what the power is, that they have in those countries. Because they have a lot of power, they have a privilege and a lot of advantages. By example, they had an opportunity to gain knowledge and to create awareness, okay? And giving this knowledge and awareness to the upcoming generations, because they have a lot of babies and they have grown-up girls, and those girls are married, and they have like grandchildren, and so they already started the ending FGM tradition. So they already started, and I think it's a beautiful opportunity that they are in a host country where they could do this, and hopefully they can bring those ideas they developed. Hopefully, they can bring the ideas that they developed to their home country, because this is the only way that we can try to end FGM where the prevalences are very high. By example, I know that in Egypt, Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, they are talking about maybe between the 90 and 100% of prevalences. So when their people goes out and live in foreign countries and live in other host countries, and they having the opportunity to gain that knowledge and awareness, hopefully by gaining the knowledge and awareness they developed during the years, they can help people in their home countries and transfer the information, so they will start stopping or eliminating FGM in those countries where the prevalences are this high.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like, as you mentioned, the privilege that we have here, the tools that we are able to gain, the way that we're able to have our organizations that teach, that have support groups for FGM survivors and potential victims. So the knowledge, the privilege, the tools that we can use here and take it back to our home countries and spread this knowledge, because at the end of the day, knowledge is power.
In first place, we can say that the next generations from FGM survivors, they don't have to face FGM or even
worry about it, because that's what it is. The moment a girl is born, the moment she's able to talk or walk, it's destined for her to go through FGM. So it doesn't have to cross their mind anything else apart from FGM.
So actually, they are safe. The first generations from FGM survivor, the upcoming generations are saved. That's in first place. And in second place, everything they know about the FGM topic, they can transfer it to their home countries
and try to change the ideas to the other generation.
Yes. There is hope because there is change. With change, I mean, when we are organizing, I'm representing FSAN, but I'm also representing an organization. It's called Eén voor Alle. In Dutch, it's One for All. And we are organizing a lot of events for women to talk about this FGM topic. And what I exactly mean with changes is a few years ago, they didn't even gave us the opportunity to open the subject of FGM. They didn't give us the opportunity to talk about it. And nowadays, they are willing to talk about it, and they're sharing their problems, physical problems, and we can help them, and we are putting them through and telling them where they can go to get help for example, a cyst or a polyp down there, or for any physical problem in that area. So now there is a willingness to talk about it, and when you are I guess that's a very good starting point when people are ready to talk about it, because from there you can help them out. So that's the change I meant. That's a big change when people are ready to talk and communicate about this FGM problem.
Yeah, and no, I totally agree with that, because I feel like the most important thing in the change in community is accepting it, and then being able to talk about it freely without shaming anyone, without telling them, oh, you went through this, so there's no place for you here to talk about it. So yeah, I feel like the talking stages, the communication stages is the most important one. And that's when change can happen, accepting it and talking about it. So in conclusion, we know that even though like there are organizations and people who are willing to combat FGM, I think it's important that these organizations are made up of people who have suffered or gone through FGM firsthand, who are either survivors or people who directly know FGM survivors as well, or also come from an FGM affected community, because I feel like they will understand better. They will have a deeper understanding on the survivors, and also on the communities that still practice it to this very day. Because I feel like it will be easier to reach them It would be because let's say you go to Sudan and or to Somalia or to Kenya, and if you go there as a white person, for instance, they will take you as a tourist. They will not take you seriously, or they will like, oh, don't bring those ideas here. Like, please go back to your country. But if it is directly from someone who is like them or who has gone through FGM, it is much easier to reach them. It is much easier to talk to them in their mother tongue language, for instance, to give them examples, to tell them why they shouldn't be doing this.
So you're saying that it's very important to involve everyone, and especially people who suffered from FGM, or let me say FGM survivors, into ending FGM, into the policies they are making at this day. And I want to add that we should not just involve them in making policies, but even in support services, because they are the best to support, to relate to people who are suffering from the same issues. We should involve FGM survivors in all different positions, all different communities, not only the affected community that they are part of, but even support services, just like I told you, and higher places where they are making policies like EU institutions.
No, I totally agree. I feel like the FGM survivors are the most important element. If the institutions or the organizations are to help them, then they should be part of it. They should be the one who are giving their voices. And with that, we have come to an end with another episode of the Purple Chair podcast. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for taking your time. We are very much aware that FGM is a sensitive topic, but it does need to be talked about.
The only thing is, just don't forget to listen to us, because that's the only way to understand us.